will probably arrive as soon as the mock battles begin. Cain imagines the captain as a scary monster, but Gazard tells him not to worry. He decides to start the mock battle, but one of the knights speaks out, feeling bad because Cain is just a child, so Gazard tells the knight to go first. The knight gives Cain the first move for free, telling him to show him what he can do. Cain uses his boost spell, dashing at him, and instantly disarming the knight. The knight immediately admits defeat, and Cain thinks he overdid it. He tries to end things, but Gazard grabs onto him, telling him to take on all the knights at once. But the fight is stopped, as the captain Tefana jumps onto the scene. She wonders why her knights are picking on a child, hugging Cain, and telling him that everything is going to be okay, thinking he is just a lost child who wandered in. She demands an explanation from Gazard, and he explains that Cain is actually the hero who defeated 30 orcs. Hearing this, Tefana's expression immediately changes, as she becomes excited to meet him, and she challenges him to a duel. Gazard tells her to introduce herself first, but she says they will get to know each other with their swords. The knights think that even Cain doesn't stand a chance, because Tefana has the title of Master Swordsman. They prepare to fight, but Cain says he only has a wooden sword, but Tefana attacks him anyway. She uses her boost skill, charging at Cain, and the two exchange blows. The knights are shocked to see Cain keeping up with the captain. The two seem evenly matched, but Cain boosts his speed even more, getting behind the captain and winning the duel. Tefana becomes emotional with the result, and immediately decides that she will marry him. Everyone is shocked, and Cain says it's too soon since he is only 10 years old, and he doesn't even know anything about her. So Tefana introduces herself. Besides being the captain of the Royal Knights, she is an honorary viscount and daughter of a duke from the northern forest. She tells him not to worry about age, since she is an elf, who will live at least 300 years, so her looks won't change for a long time, but Cain thinks that was not the problem. Cain hides behind Gazard, saying that marriage is a big decision, and they can't just decide things on their own so easily, especially since he is already engaged to Telestia and Silk. He cries for Gazard's help, but he just pretends to be sleeping. Tefana agrees that they can't decide things on their own, so she tells Gazard to arrange an audience with the king, but Cain thinks that telling the king would be a terrible idea, but he has no choice, and gets dragged along with them. They have a meeting with the king, who wonders why Cain has come to visit. Tefana announces that she wants to marry Cain, and the king asks what happened. Cain explains that he beat Tefana in a duel, and that was what led to her proposing to him. The king asks him if he has told her about his other engagements, but Cain says he wasn't able to, since it's meant to be a secret. The king explains that elves used to be kidnapped and enslaved for their beauty, but their first king changed things and made peace with the elves. The elf nation was taken in and put under the protection of the kingdom, and he reveals that Tefana is essentially their princess. The king tells Tefana that Cain is already engaged to Telestia and Silk. She seems disappointed to learn this, but as he starts to apologize, Tefana says that it only makes her want him even more. The king acknowledges her feelings, but tells her she needs to write a letter to her father to get his permission. Tefana leaves to write her letter, but drags Cain away so they can fight some more. After they leave, the king is surprised Cain was able to beat Tefana, and he wonders how he could be so strong at such a young age. Gazard mentions Cain's reaction when he asked if he was a disciple of the gods, and the prime minister thinks they should test him by using a certain book. A few days later, Cain is exhausted, and he runs into Gazard again, who asks him why he looks so tired. Cain explains that Tefana has been forcing him on countless dates, which are really just the two of them fighting. Gazard thanks him for helping Tefana get stronger, and Cain reveals he has also gained the Master Swordsman title. They suddenly hear Tefana's voice, and Cain tries to run, but Gazard drags him away, saying the king wants to see him. Cain thinks he is in trouble, but the king shows him a book that contains emperor-level magic, passed down in the royal family, which is said to have been written by the first king. Cain checks it out, and is amazed to see there is another level of magic, but the king reveals that no one is able to read the book, because it's actually written in Japanese. Cain realizes he messed up, thinking that the first king must have also been someone who was reincarnated from Japan. The king asks about Cain's identity, and he realizes he can't hide the truth any longer, so he explains how he was reincarnated with the memories from his previous life. Garm wonders if he is really his son, and Cain claims that he is, because the gods told him that was the case. Everyone is shocked to hear he met the gods, and he recalls how he met the 7 gods during his baptism. The king can't believe he met all 7 gods, and they ask him to show his status. Cain opens his real status window, shocking everyone as they see his level 10 blessings and his title as God's chosen. The king thinks that with his title as God's chosen, everyone in the world would bow to him. But Cain doesn't want that to happen, saying that he is happy with how things are in his life, with the adventures he's had, and the people he has met, so he wants them to just treat him the same as before. The king agrees to his request, but jokes that he could be king if he wanted. Tefana interrupts the meeting, revealing the letter from her father, agreeing to let her marry Cain, so she grabs Cain and takes him away, heading straight to the courtyard. Meanwhile, the king orders everyone to keep what they learned about Cain a secret, hoping that he will continue to protect the country, as well as their people. Later on, we see Telestia and Silk after they find out about his engagement to Tefana. They are mad at him at first, but they manage to accept the news, and they tell him not to accept all the proposals that he will receive, wondering how many people they will have to share him with. Tefana bursts in looking for him, wanting to share their love together, and the girls wonder what he has been doing with her. But he gets dragged away, as he tries to explain himself. Later on, Cain has another look at the first king's book, and there is a message that says if he can read the book, then he must also be from another world, so it's a record of his own experience. The king is introduced as Yuya Esford, a man who also died in an accident, but he was summoned to the world in his original body. Cain is suddenly interrupted, as Telestia and Silk wonder what he is up to. They think he must be studying for the academy entrance exams, and they ask to study with him, but he tells them he is too busy, so they ask him about the following day, but he says that is even worse for him, and he quickly runs away. However, he ends up running into Tefana, who asks him to fight with her the next day, but he apologizes to her and runs away from her as well. The next day, it turns out to be his 12th birthday, and he is finally old enough to register as an adventurer, so he heads straight for the guild. He looks around the place, and he is impressed by the capital's guild. He runs into an adventurer, who can tell it's his first time, so he reminds him to stay safe, because he only has one life. As he walks off, Cain gets a feeling he has seen him before. He goes up to the counter, and the clerk introduces herself as Tia. Cain asks to register as an adventurer, and she tells him to fill out a form. As he fills it out, he wonders if he should mention he is a baron, but he decides to leave it out, thinking it shouldn't make a difference. After filling it out, Tia tells him to put a drop of his blood on the crystal, so he can register for his guild card. She tells him he starts off in G rank, and he thinks about his tutors, who mention that they were in D rank. As Tia is explaining things to him, some adventurers interrupt, telling her to stop wasting her time with a kid. The man tells Cain to go home to his mother, trying to kick him, but Cain easily dodges. His friend tries to attack as well, but Cain avoids him as well. He makes a fool of them, and the man prepares to draw his sword. But things are stopped, as the red-haired adventurer from earlier appears, and the man recognizes him as Claude, from the Ice Flame party. Claude asks if he wants to fight, and the men run off instead. Cain thanks Claude for his help, and Claude can tell he is strong, seeing the way he avoided the attacks from the men. They have a drink together, and Cain gets juiced since he is still a kid. Claude is interested in how he is so strong at such an age, and Cain tells him he was tutored when he was younger. Cain asks him why the men mentioned Ice Flame, and Claude reveals it's the name of his party, where he fights with a flaming sword, and his wife uses ice magic. He recommends Cain find a party, so that he can take on bigger quests and rank up faster, revealing his gold card, which means he is an A-ranked adventurer. Cain is impressed seeing the card, but Claude says there is room to improve, mentioning that the first king was S ranked, and his card was supposedly black. Claude suddenly gets hit, as his wife Lena suddenly appears. She wonders why he is drinking, and Cain introduces himself, saying that Claude saved him. She finds him cute, even offering to help him if he gets into any more trouble, but she drags Claude away, saying they need to get on with their quest. Cain checks out the quest board, and sees one for transporting cargo. He thinks it would be easy with his item box, but he decides he wants a quest that involves defeating monsters. He finds a quest to defeat goblins, and there is no limit to how many he can defeat, so he thinks it's the perfect first quest for him. But he suddenly runs into Tefana, and Gazard explains they are headed out to do some training with the knights. Tefana wonders what he is up to, and Cain says he is about to go on his first quest as an adventurer. Tefana decides to go with him, saying she can't miss her husband's first adventure, and she leaves the training exercise up to Gazard. Cain tries to run, but Tefana grabs him and drags him off. They head into the forest, and Tefana enjoys her time with him, dragging him along and wondering where the goblins are at. Cain uses his search skill, detecting the goblins up ahead, and they see a man surrounded by goblins. They quickly rush to the man, and Cain heals him with his magic. Tefana rushes at the goblins, easily cutting them down, but there are more goblins that appear. Cain uses his magic to boost her strength, and she feels as though they are fighting as one. She easily cuts them all down, but there is a giant goblin that appears. But thanks to Cain's magic, it's no match for her, and she cuts it in half. She starts dreaming about their wedding, asking Cain to praise her, but there are suddenly green lizards that appear. Cain tells her to get away with the man, telling her to leave them to him. He uses his light spell to blind them, and then follows up with his ice pillar. Gigantic ice pillars emerge, and the man wonders what's going on, but Tefana knows it's just Cain being Cain. Sometime later, we see Cain's tutors as they investigate the green lizards, but there is only a huge crater left behind. Cain reports to the guild, and he wonders if he can hand in the green lizards, even though he didn't take the quest. Tia is shocked to hear this, because a green lizard quest is usually C-ranked, and Cain reveals that he defeated 30 of them. Tia can't believe it, and she rushes to the chief and tells him what happened. The chief meets with Cain, introducing himself as Cedric, mentioning that the guild master is busy, so he is handling his case. He thinks Cain is trying to cheat the system, because he only just registered as an adventurer, and he thinks it would be impossible for him to kill a green lizard. Cain insists that he beat them, but Cedric thinks he is just a peasant trying to cheat the guild out of the reward money. He decides to punish Cain by revoking his guild card, saying that he doesn't tolerate cheaters, but the guild master suddenly enters. Cedric explains the situation, saying there is no way Cain could have defeated 30 green lizards. But the guild master laughs, telling Cedric there is much for him to learn. Cedric can't believe he is siding with Cain, but the guild master calls in his guest, which turns out to be Tefana. She hugs onto Cain, calling him her husband, while Tia and Cedric are shocked to hear this. Cain wonders what she is doing at the guild, and she explains she was there to discuss the city's countermeasures against goblins and green lizards. The guild master mentions that Cain is a baron and the hero who saved the princess, but Cedric can't believe it, saying there was no mention of it on his registry form. But Cain says he left it out because he didn't want any special treatment. The guild master mentions that if Cain marries Tefana, then he will also be his brother-in-law, which is a shock to Cain, learning that he is Tefana's brother. Cedric begs for forgiveness, and Tefana mentions he should be executed for insulting a noble, but Cain accepts his apology, warning him not to assume things so quickly. Cain asks if they will take his green lizards, and the guild master decides to promote him to C rank. But Tefana says it's not enough, mentioning how he is stronger than her, and even defeated a red dragon when he was 10, so the guild master decides to make him A rank instead, although he mentions that Cain will need to subjugate some bandits. Tia and Cedric can't believe he is being promoted to A rank in a single day, and the guild master tells them to handle the paperwork. After they leave, the guild master apologizes for Cedric's behavior, but Cain tells him not to worry. The guild master admits he was worried when he heard his sister got engaged, but he is relieved after meeting him, and he tells him to take care of his sister. Meanwhile, we see the gods watching him, laughing at all the trouble he's causing. They wonder if it was a mistake to make him so strong, but Xenom says he needs to get even stronger, revealing that a being named Aaron is about to be released from his seal. He was sealed away 300 years ago, and the gods fear what will happen when he gets free. So they think Cain needs to get even stronger, thinking he needs to train with a certain master to reach the next level. Back at the palace, the girls ask to study with him again, but Tefana suddenly enters, saying she enjoyed their date in the forest, and that they should go to the beach next time. So the girls realize that he turned them down the other day, only to end up on a date with Tefana instead. They tell him he needs to take them on dates as well, and all he can do is apologize to them. We see Cain in bed, as Sylvia bursts in, apologizing because she forgot to wake him up, and we learn that today is the day of his academy entrance exams. Cain rushes out the door, as Sylvia continues to apologize, but he tells her not to worry, because he's not going to be late. As he gets outside, he uses a teleportation spell to get to the academy. He checks in for the exam, and he is given directions to his room. As he heads over, he finds it strange he doesn't recognize anyone on the list. When he gets to the room, he wonders if Telestia and Silk are taking the exam in another room. The examiner comes in and tells them they have 2 hours to complete the test, warning them that any cheaters will be immediately removed. The test begins, and it's just basic math and writing skills, which Cain finds easy, thanks to his knowledge from his previous life. During the test, the examiner sees him relaxing, but he says he is already finished, which surprises her because it's only been 30 minutes. After the test ends, they are told they will be moving on to the magic assessment, which gets Cain excited. They head out into the courtyard, and the examiner tells them they are to use their strongest spell at the target. Cain wonders if it will be okay to use his full power, and the examiner tells him the area is protected by a defensive barrier, so he can use any magic that he wants. We see a boy as he starts to chant and create a fireball, but it's so weak that it surprises Cain. Another student goes, and she is just as weak, making Cain realize that this is the level that most 12-year-olds are at. He was planning to use his Inferno spell, but realizes that would probably be a bad idea. When it's his turn, he creates a fireball which turns blue, and uses a fire bullet spell, but it ends up causing a huge explosion, blasting right through the wall. There is massive damage to the area, and Cain is confused, because he only used a beginner-level spell. The examiner can't believe her eyes, as Cain tries to explain himself. The examiner checks the area, and tells them to move on to their swordsmanship exam. They move to another part of the academy, where the examiner introduces some A-rank adventurers who are there to help assess them. Cain is surprised to see Claude, who wonders what he is up to, and Cain explains he is taking the entrance exam. Claude wants to be his opponent, but Cain tries to decline. However, the examiner says that Claude is the highest-ranked adventurer, so he can't refuse. The two prepare to fight, and Claude tells him to show him what he can do. Cain thinks he should be pretty strong since he is A-ranked, so he uses his boost skill and starts to attack. The two start to exchange blows, and the other kids can't believe how fast they are moving. Claude is impressed by Cain, saying he is stronger than the other examiners, but Cain tells him to take it easy, since it's just a test. But Claude gets too excited, using his own boost skill, and they start moving even faster. But their fight gets interrupted as the examiner tells them to stop, saying they are scaring the other kids. Claude thinks they went a little overboard, and decides to call it for the day, but tells Cain they should go on a quest together sometime, but Cain isn't sure that's a good idea. The examiner says he has seen enough, and tells Cain to go home and wait for the results. He heads back home, and Sylvia wonders how he did. He says everything went well, and Sylvia wants to have a party to celebrate. He says it's still too early to celebrate, but his stomach growls, and Sylvia rushes off to prepare him some food. At the palace, we see Cain as he is questioned by the king about the damage that he caused. Cain explains how the examiner told him he could use his full power since there was a barrier, but even though he only used beginner magic, instead of his new Emperor-level magic, it still caused massive damage. The king is surprised he can use Emperor-level magic, but Cain says he's not sure what would happen to his surroundings if he used it, asking if there is anywhere he could practice, but they tell him absolutely not. The king goes on to ask him where he took his exam, because Telestia complained that she didn't see him during the exam. Cain mentions how he checked in at the south entrance, and was directed to his room. Upon hearing this, the king asks him why the academy has a north and south entrance, causing Cain to realize his mistake, because the north entrance leads to where the nobles live, and he ended up taking the exam with all the commoners instead. The Duke mentions how this even caused a problem with the academy headmaster, as we see in a flashback, the headmaster telling him there is a problem with releasing the results, because a commoner got a perfect score on the written exam, as well as destroying the training area and fighting on equal footing with an A-ranked adventurer. But the Duke just laughs hearing this, knowing it could only be Cain, and tells the headmaster to release the results. At the academy, the results are released, and Cain looks for his name. Silk calls out to him, telling him he is at the top of the class, while Telestia is second, and she is in third place. She teases him about the damage he caused, and tells him how Telestia was mad she didn't see him, making him worried he is in trouble. He suddenly sees his sister Rain, who is guiding some other students. She rushes over to him, overjoyed to see him. She is impressed he is the top of his class, and wishes him luck on his speech, saying that it's tradition for the top-scoring student to give a speech at the entrance ceremony. Cain wishes Telestia could do it instead, but Rain tells him he doesn't have a choice. Cain returns home, and Sylvia is overjoyed to learn he passed, saying they need to celebrate, and that she will cook enough food to feed 100 people. She rushes off, and Cain thinks she is going overboard, but he thinks it's a good occasion to be happy. On the day of the entrance ceremony, Cain sees that his parents have come to watch him. He is joined by Telestia and Silk, charming them instantly, as they think he looks cute in his uniform. As the ceremony begins, the other students wonder who he is, jealous that he's sitting between the two girls. The headmaster calls Cain up to give his speech, and he introduces himself, mentioning how he got his exam mixed up, but looks forward to becoming friends with everyone, hoping they can all get along, and all the students cheer for him. The king comes out to congratulate all the students, mentioning certain irregular students, and Cain feels like he is being warned by the king. They get to their first class, and their homeroom teacher introduces herself as Elka. She tells them to think about their future and choose what they plan on studying. Cain wants to go for adventuring, but the girls object. Telestia says that since he is already a baron, he needs to learn more about being a noble. Cain gets upset, but Silk tells him he can choose more than one course. So Cain decides to go with nobility, adventuring, and magic. He asks what they are going to choose, and Telestia says she will pick nobility and internal affairs. Cain wonders why she is picking internal affairs, but she mentions how she wants to help him manage his domain in the future. Silk decides on nobility and commerce, wanting to also be useful to him in the future. As they leave their class, Cain sees some bullies picking on a girl. He notices her ear, and realizes it's Parma from the item shop. The bullies turn out to be Habit and his boys, and they bully her for being a beast, saying she doesn't belong in their class, since they are all nobles. But Cain steps in, saying nobles and commoners are equals at the school. Habit doesn't care, but soon realizes he is talking to Cain, remembering their past encounter. The boys wonder why he is siding with a commoner, when he is a noble himself, but Cain says he is just siding with his friend. Habit threatens to tell his father to ruin Parma's family, but the girls approach, causing the boys to get on their knees and apologize. They are forced to apologize to Parma, and they quickly get away. Parma thanks Cain for his help, but the girls suddenly wonder about his relationship with her, making Cain kneel as they have a chat with Parma. He gets worried they are forming an alliance, but he suddenly hears a voice, telling him to visit the library. Cain decides to check it out, but as he opens the door, it leads to another space, and he is teleported to a room where he meets a man, who asks him if he wants some coffee. Cain demands to know who he is, wondering how there is coffee in this world, but the man says he has been waiting for him, calling him Kazuya, his name from his previous life. The man introduces himself as Yuya, and Cain recognizes him as the first king. He remembers the book he read, but remembers it was written more than 300 years ago, so he wonders if he is a ghost. But Yuya just laughs, and tells him he can check his stats. Cain opens up his status window, and is shocked when he sees he has the God of Creation title. Yuya explains they are in another world that he created, so he is considered a god, and maintains his appearance even after 300 years. He goes on to explain how he spoke with Xenum, and how the other gods wanted him to help with his training. Cain thinks he is already too strong, so Yuya tells him to take a cookie from him. Cain gives it a go, but Yuya easily stops him, saying he has a long way to go. Cain wonders why he needs to get stronger, and Yuya reveals he needs to fight Eren, the evil god. He explains that 300 years ago, Eren made people all over the world fight and kill each other by using an oracle, sowing distrust in everyone's subconscious and making them fight. But together with his companions, they manage to seal him away, but the seal has since loosened, and he will soon be resurrected. Cain asks why he can't just seal him again, but Yuya says since he became a god, he can no longer directly interfere in the world, just like the other gods. Yuya also mentions that Cain's previous life is important, but they suddenly teleport to the sea. Yuya throws him a sword, and says he will tell him more if he can complete his training. He gives him a compass to follow, which he says will lead him back to the house where they were. He tells Cain to level up, saying he would need to get to at least 600 to stand a chance against Aaron. Cain thinks it will take forever, since he is only around level 300, so he worries about missing school. But Yuya tells him that 1 year in this world is equal to only 1 day in the other world. Yuya wishes him luck and disappears, and Cain realizes he has no other choice, so he starts heading back to the house. As he enters the forest, he is instantly attacked by a range of deadly monsters. Meanwhile, in the other world, Telestia and Silk pay a visit to Cain's mansion, wondering about Cain because he didn't go to school. Sylvia also gets worried, thinking he could be in some kind of trouble, but Telestia has faith in him, and decides to stay over and wait for him to return. We see Cain as he is caught by a beast, and is completely exhausted, but he manages to blast it with his magic, falling to the ground. We learn he has already spent months in the forest, and he wonders if he will ever get back. He suddenly hears a cry, and he gets up out of instinct, dragging himself over to the sound, and he finds an injured beast lying on the ground. He thinks about putting it out of its misery, but as he is about to do it, he suddenly remembers how he always just wanted to protect someone, so he forces himself to use all the magic that he has to heal the beast. But this ends up causing him to pass out. The beast protects him from the other monsters, and when Cain wakes up, it jumps on him and starts licking him. Thinking that it's also all alone, Cain asks it to join him, and he ends up naming it Haku. Together with Haku, he manages to keep his sanity, remembering he can't give up no matter what, because he has something to protect. After some time, he finally makes it back to the house, and Yuya welcomes him back, commenting on how big he's gotten, and we learn 4 years have passed. He is also surprised to see Haku, mentioning that it's a holy beast, and suggests they could form a contract. Cain gives it a go, and Haku disappears, but Yuya says he can now summon him whenever he wants. Yuya goes on to introduce him to his next teacher Durin. Durin tells him he's still not strong enough, because Eren is even stronger than Yuya, who is stronger than him, so Cain needs to first defeat him. Cain uses his boost skill, but Durin dodges his attack, knocking him out with a single punch. When Cain wakes up, he finds he was taken in by Durin, and he meets his wife Ruri. They also have a pet dragon named Jin, and Cain is excited to see it, wanting to be its friend, but Haku jumps on him, and doesn't seem to like the dragon. Cain joins them for a meal, and he starts to cry, because it's the first time he has gotten to eat real food in 4 years. Meanwhile, we see Telestia and Silk baking. They are worried about Cain, but are learning how to bake, wanting to make him happy when he returns. Cain keeps on fighting with Durin, and he gets beaten up every day. After training for a year, Cain is still getting beaten up, and Durin wonders how he will be able to defeat Eren. But Cain thinks back to his talk with Yuya, where he explains Eren used to be the god of amusement in the other world. Cain is shocked to learn there used to be 8 gods, and Yuya tells him how Eren used an oracle to force everyone in the world into a death game, and if he returns, the death game will happen again, and everyone Cain knows will get caught up in it. Cain uses this as motivation to continue his training. Yuya also goes on to reveal the reason that Eren is linked to his past life is because Eren killed his parents. We learn that his parents Seiya and Megumi were also killed in a car accident and summoned as heroes to the world. The gods were unable to interfere directly, so they tasked the 3 of them with stopping Eren, giving them an orb that could seal him away. They fight against Eren, but he is unaffected by Megumi's magic, so Yuya and Seiya charge at him, attacking with their swords, and even managing to cut his arm.